Welcome to the Real Estate Raw Show, hosted by Joe Mendoza.
Hey guys, Joe Mendoza here in sunny San Diego. Guys, I'm super excited to have a really good friend of mine. I've known Mr. Jim Sullivan for a while, meaning about almost 20 plus years. Jim and I were both prospectors. We were both agents. We listed and sold lots and lots of homes. We got into the fix and flip arena. We started doing unconventional financing, buying lease options, subject twos, what have you. So guys, he took it up another notch, started another company, and he pivoted. And in this market, this arena, guys, you need to pivot, because if you don't, you're probably going to starve. So Mr. Jim Sullivan, the man, the myth, the legend, welcome to our show.
Well, what more can I say after that introduction? Thank you, Joe. I'll tell you what, I think I've pivoted. I think I'm on my last pivot. I'm getting too old to keep doing this and reinventing myself. But yeah, you do what you have to do. And you and I have both ridden that real estate roller coaster more than once, for sure.
Exactly. So Jim, taking this company from where it is today, let's scale back. So you were also doing regular real estate. What kind of instigated you forming this company?
Yeah, and I'll try to make it fairly brief without giving you my whole life story. But as you know, I've been an active realtor for about 45 years and an active investor for about 40. And you and I, we sold together. We were part of a coaching organization, which everybody's familiar with. When the market, about 5 years after I got into real estate, I started buying and flipping. And when the market was really good, I was doing 3 to 5 homes a month. And then my wife and I made the brilliant decision to buy and hold a lot of real estate in Florida. So when the crash came, we had 108 rental properties in South Florida. And we went from positive cash flow to negative almost overnight. And we were forced to short sale most of our properties. And in the process of short selling them, Joe, we learned a lot, and we thought that there was something there where we could help realtors and investors from across the country short sell their own properties, when needed. And her and I started a company called Nationwide Short Sale Solutions right after the crash. Honestly, I thought it would last for about 2 years, and 12, 13 years later, she's still running that company. Anybody out there needs help with the short sale, she does everything from start to finish, doesn't take any of the commission. And she's done over 2,000 of them. But about 7 years ago, I was kind of convinced that the short sale had run its course and they were going to start declining. And we were actually at a real estate convention. We were across from one of these lead companies. And I kept noticing people walking up that were paying a fortune for really expensive buyer internet leads. And that's really what gave me the idea. I said, there's got to be a way to get seller leads, high quality seller leads. And I know in my real estate and investing career, probate had always been the best, easiest deals, because you're dealing with an absentee owner, highly motivated, they're not looking to get top dollar, and there's very little competition. And I started looking, and I was really surprised that no one else had done this before, until we started dealing with the courthouses. And then we kind of realized why. The courthouses are an extension of the government. They don't do anything logically or efficiently. So it took us a while. I got 3 incredible partners together, a financial guy, a tech guy, and a marketing guy. And the 4 of us, it took us about 1.5 years, 2 years to really put it together. But what we actually did is physically hire researchers in every market in the country that go down to the courthouse every month and retrieve the probate data. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but I mean, every month we give our subscribers about 30 columns of data, the information on everybody who passed away and filed a probate in the last 30 days. We give them extremely accurate 3 to 5 phone numbers, usually a cell phone number, and then we give them email addresses and all the attorney information. And what's really exciting about it, well, just to give you an idea, Joe, with my investment background, when I had the idea, I tried it here in my market in South Florida first, and my partner tried it in Roanoke, Virginia. We figured if it could work in those 2 diverse markets, it would, probably work anywhere. But in 4 months, I listed 14 properties, and I bought and flipped 2. But what I loved about it to essentially do 16 deals, I went on one appointment. There was only one person that was local. So more often than not, it was just a phone conversation. You email off the paperwork to the heirs and wait for it to come back. You put a lockbox on the door and wait for it to sell. I found they were so much less demanding than local sellers. You know, they didn't want an open house every weekend. They just wanted the property sold. And they almost never want top dollar.
Yeah, so check this out, guys. Like I mentioned the word pivot. And I think that's very, very important in a shifting market, a shifting economy. You know, how many of you out there are like calling expireds and for sale by owners and random circle dialing and cold calling? Well, it was one of those things that Jim and I experienced that, hey, we're hitting a wall. And now, you know, depending on when you're watching this show, you know, we're on shutdown mode. We got to stay in the houses because of this coronavirus deal. Okay, so how are you going to keep this business going? You know, unfortunately for me, it was a little bit prior to this coronavirus that I got involved with Jim and All the Leads company. How I got involved was I actually had a couple of my friends, their parents passed away, and they were like, hey, Joe, I need you to sell my house. I got to see how to navigate through this probate deal. And so I actually was just searching and searching and searching. And then I found my buddy Jim online. I'm like, oh my God. Yep. And then as he helped me, like he coached me for free, basically navigate through this probate. I was like, hey, Jim, tell me more about this program. And then I got involved. I got certified with the company. And then I started, you know, participating and buying some leads that Jim was talking about, guys. So if you're like, man, where do I get my leads? Where do I get my business? They have a subscription service, guys, that like very, very exclusive to different areas that you guys got to check it out. Now, that exclusivity, Jim, you know, I think you still limit it, right, to like a certain amount of agents in an area?
Yeah, depending on the, you know, the number of leads and the demographics, it's 3 to 5 subscribers per market, and that includes realtors and investors. We said from the beginning we didn't want it to become like FSBOs and expireds where you've got 100 people, you know, calling the same person. And what we recommend, Joe, is get the leads, send a letter, follow up with a phone call. We do have people in non-competitive markets. We had a lady last week on our call that got 5 listings that's never picked up the phone. But that's not going to happen in California or Florida. It's a much more competitive market. The most successful people are the ones that follow the whole program. They follow that letter up with the phone call. And I just wanted to add something. When you and I were with the same coach, Tom, many years ago, if I had a claim to fame, it was I made 100 contacts every day relentlessly. I made 100 contacts every day for 800 consecutive days. And people used to say, how do you get so good in prospecting? If you do anything 50,000 times, you get pretty good at it. But the difference today, even before this coronavirus hit, I was hearing from agents, I mean, that they could sit there and dial all day and nobody answered the phone. So that's right. The problem. Back when you and I were prospecting machines, everybody picked up the phone. It was a landline, probably before some of our listeners were born. So what's beautiful about probate is you're calling somebody usually who's not local. You know, you got a really good phone number and their phone isn't ringing off the hook. They actually pick up and they answer. And that was true before the coronavirus. What we're hearing from our subscribers now is their contact rates have quadrupled because people are home, the kids are off school, they're picking up the phone. Like you said, they're having good conversations. We were concerned, like most businesses, the effect of what this would have. And we've actually grown since it happened in the last couple of weeks because we've had a lot of people in lockdown that said, what else am I going to do? You know, and they've actually gotten on the phone and they've just called all day long their probate leads and they do a virtual presentation. They list the property. I always say on their way to the gym or the grocery store, they go by and do a virtual tour and then put it in the MLS and wait for it to sell. And even if you don't have a lot of buyers out there now, those sellers, you know, the pitch to the sellers is this is going to end, and when it does, the listing inventory is going to be depleted, and you're going to really be in a good competitive position to sell your property.
Absolutely. So, guys, I want you to really pay attention to what Jim is saying and what I'm also saying. I mean, you're watching, observing two two real estate pros that been in the business over 30 plus years. Jim's got another 10 on me. I think 45, he said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So check this out, guys. You need to adapt and overcome. You need to really, really pivot in this market. And what we're trying to say here too is there's not going to be that much competition. You could do everything virtual. You could do it like on a Zoom conference, you know, and some of the things that I like to preach and coach on with a lot of clients that I coach via Tom Ferry and what have you is, you know, absentees, for rent by owners, you know, these kind of folks that aren't, you don't need to meet them face to face or go over to the house. I mean, think about the logic here, guys. There's a massive, massive opportunity here. And the baby boomers, the silver rush they're talking about is one of the biggest market opportunities ever, coronavirus or not. And so guys, pay close attention. So Jim, if you could say like, how many times should a person maybe touch, call, or mail? What seems to be like the average that they'll have some kind of success rate?
Absolutely. It varies incredibly from market to market. To give you an example, people always ask, what's your conversion rate? And I always tell them between 1 and 20%, because we have a guy in New York City that gets 300 leads a month and does 2 or 3 deals. He made over $1 million in commissions last year. We have a guy in rural Arkansas that gets 15 leads a month and does 2 or 3 deals because he's got zero competition. But regardless, the recommended program that seems to work really well is send 3 letters 30 days apart and follow every letter up with at least 1 phone call. You know, if you do that, you're going to reach the people. And obviously more letters, more calls is better. But that seems to be the minimum that will guarantee a good return on your investment.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Sure.
So guys, as I mentioned, I am also a subscriber. So some of you are probably listening to this and wondering, I'm not that creative. When am I going to put on that letter? Well, check this out, guys. You talk about full service from A to Z. Jim, all the leads and the rest of the crew, Chad, Tim, they thought of it all. So like, if you're thinking about a letter, you're like not that creative, well, they have a letter system. If you're thinking like, man, I don't have the time, I don't have the courage, I don't know what to say, they have a calling team. All right, guys. So they thought about a lot of things. And I love people that add value. I mean, just like we're doing here. Check this out. Every Thursday, guys, depending what side of the country you're in my side of the country, Pacific Standard Time, about 10 in the morning, they have a mastermind, right, Jim?
Yes, sir. The first Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern, we do a role play call. And every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we do a mastermind call. And that's our company motto, Joe, is provide value first. So you don't have to be a subscriber to join in on these calls. Most of the people on there are, but we always have guests on the call. And you can just go to our website, alltheleads.com, click the little calendar on the top, and it'll give you the information how to call in and how to reach us on the call. One other added thing, when Corona hit, starting yesterday, from noon to 1 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're doing a lunch and learn. Actually, we're calling it Shift Happens. That's SHIFT. Shift Happens on our.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Exactly. On our All the Leads Mastermind group. You just go to All the Leads Mastermind and join. And if you're a real estate professional, we'll let you in. We're doing that every day on basically, you know, how to not only survive, but how to thrive, you know, in this market. And I just had a message. Can you still see me? I just had a message come up on my screen. I think we're still okay,
yes,
correct?
I can totally
Okay,
see you. You're good to go.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 to 1 Eastern Pacific?
12 to 1 Eastern.
Eastern. Okay, great. And anybody could basically jump on board. And are you masterminding, role playing? What are you doing there?
No, actually, it's more of an educational session and we do have a question and answer session at the end, but it's more our coach, Chad. Chad and I are the coaches. He's really our full-time coach, trainer, marketer, and he is just used to be an FBI agent before he went into real estate. So he's highly analytical. You know, he's really analyzed what's going on, and he's really giving people some really concrete solutions on not only how to survive, but how to thrive through this.
Awesome. Awesome. So if somebody's kind of on the fence, they're thinking like, okay, I'm done calling expireds. I'm done calling for sale by owners. What is like the biggest tip that you could give, aside from the letters, aside from the call, maybe a mindset thing that to give somebody to like encourage them to go for it?
Right. I'll tell you what works for us is it's tried and true, and it sounds a little corny, but provide value first. When you are calling these people, you're reaching out to somebody that recently lost a loved one. You really want to come from a place of contribution. And we always tell our agents, it's a lot different than FSBOs or expireds. You don't really want to go straight for the kill or straight for the real estate. You want to reach out and tell them, I know it's a tough time for the family. That's why I'm doing this. And there's a lot of different ways I can help you. If you need a quick sale, I have investors. If you have valuables in the property, I can recommend a good estate sale company. If you have trash or clutter, I can recommend a clean out crew. If you need repairs, I've got a good contractor. And if you're not in a big hurry and you're looking to get, close to market value, I'm a great realtor. And then just ask them an open-ended question like, what's been the most difficult part of this for you so far? And I think the mindset, some people are a little afraid to call these people, Joe, but it's been 3 to 4 months since the person died on average. And by the time we give you the lead, the family is over the grief enough that they've made the business decision that they need to deal with this. And they really are looking for help. For any of you, and for people like you and I, Joe, that are both realtors and investors, the great part about this, 10 to 15% of these need a quick sale. The best 2 flips I ever did were probate. One of them I called, and by the time their dad had died, he was 3 years behind on the payments and 3 weeks from sale on the courthouse steps, and the family didn't have any money. Pretty highly motivated. I had to hire an attorney to stop the sale, and it was the best flip I ever did, and they were very grateful. I had another one I made just as much profit on that was free and clear, but there were 12 heirs. So, just come from that place of contribution, and I think you guys will be amazed that our agents that are somewhat fearful will call us back, in a relatively short period of time and say, wow, this is so much easier than FSBOs or expireds. These people really want to talk to us. So just get that right mindset that you're really helping people. And, I don't want to go on too long, but I'll just tell you a real quick story that is very inspiring. We had a gentleman, been with us for a few months in Central Florida, and he reached out to an elderly couple in Michigan. They said, boy, your timing is amazing. We are sitting here with a contract that we're ready to sign. And he said, well, do you mind if I ask what the price is? And they said $90,000, but it's cash. This agent, who was also an investor, he listed it for $210,000 and sold it for $230,000 in 10 days. And somebody was about to rape these people, and he stepped in and made a huge difference in their life. And I said to him, I said, Bob, you're a realtor and an investor. Were you ever tempted to buy that yourself? And he said, not for a second, because it wouldn't have been the right thing to do. So, I think if they get their mindset straight before they start making the calls, and so much of what we do anyway for all prospecting is mindset, but I think they'll really be pleasantly surprised how rewarding this niche can be.
I'm so glad you said that, Jim. Guys, so as you're listening to this, I want you to come from that place of contribution, because if you have commission breath, they kind of joke about that. If you're just in it for the money, you may not last. So what we recommend is you be tenacious, but very, very willing to serve. Like Jim and I, like I said on this interview, on this show, on YouTube, podcast, wherever you're listening to it, is come up from a place from contribution, because the more you give, eventually the more you get. But you're serving first, serve the masses, and it's going to serve you tenfold. And so guys, listen very closely. It's going to take some work. It's one of these things that kind of like a FSBO, I would say, where, you go in there, add value, you send them some comparables, and then you ask them, hey, if there's something that I could remove from your plate right now, what would it be? Not that, hey, I'm a realtor, I'm an investor. If there's one thing, anything that I could remove from your plate What would it be? Well, what do you mean? Well, I have so many access to a bunch of resources, trash out, estate sales, investors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now then they'll say, oh, okay, I do need a contractor. I do need a handyman. And that's where you're coming from, contribution. Right, Jim?
Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't have said it better. We even tell people, even if the property is listed with another realtor or they've already sold it, recommend a good financial planner. And you know that everybody should have a living trust if you have assets, but 95% of Americans don't. Bill Gates didn't have a living trust. You know, his property had to go through Steve Jobs. I'm sorry, not Bill Gates, but his property had to go through probate. So tell the heirs, you know, that regardless of whether you can help them or not, try to provide some service to them. Maybe recommend a social worker if there's someone in the property that needs to be relocated. Recommend them to an attorney that can set up a living trust for them so they won't have to go through probate. You know, 5 to 10% of the estate gets eaten up with costs in probate. And so you can save the next generation from having to go through what they're going through right now. And believe me, when you do that, you might not have self-serving intentions, but if the property's listed and you say, well, that's great, you know, give them the disclosure, but let me refer you to my financial advisor. If that property doesn't sell and it expires, who are they going to call? And we have agents that have gotten more. We've got the guy I mentioned in rural Arkansas. He doesn't get that many leads, but he does open houses. He meets the whole neighborhood. Everybody he deals with in his probate transaction, he adds to his sphere of influence. And he offers his whole sphere of influence, his range of services. And he's actually getting as many or more deals from contacts he makes with the probate than with the actual probate itself. So yes, great, good point.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys, if you're following me on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, you know, one of my quotes is learn before you earn. Well, check this out, guys. When you start learning before you actually subscribe, maybe getting on the mastermind, you're kind of like, hey, I want to check these guys out. Well, you will learn so much just going on those conference calls. And then when you finally decide to sign up, you go for the certification. I mean, if you don't get one single transaction from it, I guarantee you, your knowledge here will be way up here afterwards. And then there will be that one time when you have a relative that I promise you will need your knowledge, will need that kind of knowledge base to help them navigate that. And maybe yourself, you know, you will probably be personally touched by this occurrence, unfortunately. Jim, tell us a little bit about that certification, because I mentioned it. People are probably wondering, like, okay, tell us more about the certification.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nothing you have to participate. As a matter of fact, a lot of our subscribers will start off, kind of get their feet wet, find out, you know, kind of determine what they don't know, and then take the mastery course. Once a month, our coach Chad offers. It's a 3-day course. It's a 3-day, 3-hour course, but it usually goes 12 hours with questions and answers. It's usually 3 consecutive days, a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And at the end, you're a CPE, a certified probate expert. You know, you get a diploma you can put on your wall, but the level of knowledge is huge. And I would also say, Joe, a lot of people are somewhat intimidated. They think they have to know everything before they do anything. You and I have run into that.
Right.
Really, with probate, you're dealing with a motivated absentee owner, and the attorney handles all of the legal aspects. So there isn't a lot that you have to know to list and sell the real estate. But the probate mastery course really takes a deeper dive. And we actually recommend a 2-prong approach, that you've got the executor information, reach out to them, get the property listed, but then contact the attorneys. You know, we give you all the attorneys. And if you're going to prospect the attorneys, the executor is good for one deal. The attorneys can be good for a career worth of referrals. You know, so look and see who the players are in your market. And mastery is really key if you want to reach out to the attorneys. Because, you know, you'll pretty much know, and we've had attorneys tell us that to take the course, they learned some things that they didn't know. So, you know, it just completes the cycle. You know, you don't have to have it, and it's a very minimal charge. It's a $250 course, and at the end of it, and once you've taken it, you can take it every month. We have one subscriber that's taken it 14 times. because it's always growing and evolving. It's not always the same material every time.
Do they have to pay every single time for the master class?
No. You're an alumni. Actually, Chad just had to expand his conference ability because he's got way more than 100 people on there every month now. But no, once you've taken it, you can retake it every month, and there's no extra charge.
Wow, that's incredible, guys. Talk about adding value. And yes, I've been on conference calls, masterminds, or even the Facebook private group. Once you get involved and certified, yeah, it's so true. Some people take it over and over and over again. And it's not that they're not getting it, because their level of knowledge is here, then it escalates, and they get more sophisticated and a better understanding about probate. So guys, again, learn before you earn, but don't get ready to never get started. Get started, start taking massive action, and you're going to make some mistakes. But these guys, Chad and Jim and Tim, reach out. Jim calls me so quick. I feel bad sometimes that I'm like, oh my God, I got so much going on. I haven't called Jim back, but he's on it. These guys are incredible. They're all about, they practice what they preach. Contribution. Guys, so check them out. Jim, one of the pushbacks that I get, and maybe this will add value to our listeners too, is when I'm making calls, and then one of the biggest first or most objection thing I get most of the time is, hey, I've got it handled. I have an attorney. What's one of your biggest comebacks for that?
Great one that works almost every time. Say, okay, you've got it handled, so you've already switched your insurance? And just shut up. Well, what do you mean? What nobody realizes and nobody tells them, that every major insurance carrier has a provision. If the property becomes vacant, you have to notify them. So they may be making the monthly payments with an escrow for insurance. If the house has been vacant 2 or 3 months and there's something happens, they may not be covered. Now, I'm not saying the lender, that the insurance company wouldn't cover it, but they don't have to. So then just shut up. And, well, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm sure my attorney handled that. Well, I appreciate that. No matter how good of an attorney you have, we find this is something that's often overlooked. So you may want to reach out to your insurance company. And then we recommend a couple national, vacant policy lender insurance companies that will insure the property even if it's empty. So that is value that nobody's told them before. And especially if they're ready to hang up, that'll get them engaged. And then now they kind of realize you just told them something that nobody else has told them. You've actually provided some value there, and it's pretty significant. Then it's much easier to get into that conversation about all the other different ways that you can help them.
That's fantastic. Guys, make sure, again, learn before you earn, add value, and establish that rapport. But fortune is made in the follow-up. So whether you're an investor or a realtor, fortune is made in the follow-up. But every time you follow up, try and add value. And the more education, the more you sit on masterminds, the more you could bring value. So you don't want to just bring comparables. You want to start getting really personal. Hey, have you talked to an estate planning attorney? What are you going to do when the funds, when you get them? Have you done the trash out? Start going into the different services that would add value. Now, Jim,
actually, that brings up a really good, sorry, Joe, go ahead. No, that brings up a really good, that brings up a really good point, that probate is so unique in that the leads season very well. If you're a seasoned prospect and you're calling FSBOs and expireds and you wait a month to call them, most of them are going to be listed or sold. About half of these leads are ready to do something right away. The other half just can't emotionally bring themselves to go through mom and dad's stuff. They haven't been able to get out to the house. They will take action over the next 6 months to a year. Every mastermind call, we hear from people that say, I reached out, I left them 3 or 4 messages, I sent them 3 letters, and it's been 18 months, and they just called and said, okay, we're ready. Come get the listing. So the follow-up is so important. We recommend what we started doing recently. We heard that from so many subscribers that, they would get a call from a 6-month or a 12-month-old lead, and they'd say, wow. And then they'd tell their assistant, or they'd get on the phone and call all their 12-month-old leads and get 3 more deals. So we've started recommending, instead of the 1, 2, 3 month letter, do a 1, 2, 3, 6, and 12-month letter. When we give you the leads, we have a CRM that you can click, do not mail, do not call. So the good thing is by the 6th or 12th month, you may only have 10 or 20% of your leads that you've never been able to contact or qualify. So it gets a lot, the marketing campaign gets less, but the results get much proportionally higher. So yeah, good point that these season extremely well compared to other lead sources, and the follow-up is really important.
So somebody's listening, they're ready to get started. They say, hey, I heard from Joe Mendoza on his show with Jim. Hey, I want to get started. How can I get started? What would be like the 1, 2, 3 steps getting started?
Go to alltheleads.com and fill out a ticket, and somebody will get back to you right away. You can actually call my direct number. I do have a sales crew that, that'll pick it up, but you can even speak to me. My direct line is 954-400-3500. So 954-400-3500. And our main company line is 844-LEAD-FOX, LEADFOX. But just call me directly or go to alltheleads.com and fill out a ticket. And generally somebody will get back to you. We're kind of fanatical about lead follow-up. Somebody will get back to you very quickly, usually within the hour, if not sooner.
Perfect. And now, any last tips, advice, anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this thing up?
No, when you call, mention Joe, and we'll give them some extra value. We'll either give them
there you go.
a discount on their first couple months, or we'll give you like a buy one, get one if we have some historical leads in your market. Because, like I said, we call anything more than 30 days old historical.
That's perfect.
So just remember that you heard about us with Joe, and remember to ask for your Joe Mendoza special bonus or discount. No, I can't think of anything else,
discount.
Joe. What's that?
The buddy or bro discount.
The buddy or bro discount. Exactly. No, this has been great. I think you hit all the main points. And I just would tell people, Joe, you and I have been through these ups and downs, these roller coasters many times. The good thing about this one, it's going to end. It's not going to last for years. So, I mean, you can sit home and play games on your computer or get on the phone, prospect, take some virtual listings, load up with an inventory and a pipeline that when this is over, you're going to be way ahead of your competition. They're going to be scrambling, to get the ones that withdrew back on the market and, to start their prospecting again. And you can keep your pipeline going through this whole, this whole epidemic or this whole crisis. And it doesn't have to mean less business for you. And again, a reminder, go to All the Leads Mastermind on Facebook and listen into the Shift Happens Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You'll get some great ideas on there.
Yeah, check it out, guys. Out on YouTube, they have some of their past recordings, past masterminds, and check them out. Do your due diligence like I did, and then coincidentally, I knew Jim, so I'm like, I trust this guy. I was all in right away, but do your diligence. But you can see there's other competitors out there, but these guys add incredible value. They're stand-up guys. Chad, listen to some of his YouTube videos and interviews, what have you, and then jump right in. Like I said, learn before you earn, but take massive action. Because if you pivot late, guys, else take over your marketplace, or somebody might call somebody and take over that probate sale. And when you should have taken over that probate sale, it was a friend, a family member, somebody but you could have added massive value just because you were on it looking to serve.
Well said. And you made a good point. We have about 700 hours of recorded content on our website. We're very much an open book, Joe. We have a very robust search bar. So you can just go to alltheleads.com, and it's kind of like Google. Put in almost any question. If you want, we've got 15 templated letters. We've got hundreds of hours. If you have some question, how do I get started? How do I handle this objection? It'll take you right there. It's like Google. You might have to play around with it a little bit, but we've got a ton of information. We really want to provide value, whether you're a subscriber or not. But after you see what we have to offer, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be. So I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to be here. And I would say to you, get on the phone and start making your calls. How's that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, coach.
All right.
Well, thanks again, Jim, so much for being on the show. Thanks so much for all your wisdom, your knowledge, and thanks so much for being such a stand in the community, whether real estate investing and adding incredible value. And thank Chad and Tim, please, as well.
Yep. And thank you so much for the opportunity. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys, subscribe, keep listening, share the good word, and mention my name when you do call them.
Alltheleads.com.
Take care, guys.
Go. Take care, Joe. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, you guys. Bye-bye.
Our company is not responsible for the success or failure of your business decisions relating to any information presented by our company or our company programs, products, and/or services.